I think the way he's leaving office has been, frankly, pretty terrible.
Okay, Joe Biden just recently had his farewell speech to the country. It was around 17 minutes long, and Joe Biden tried to convince the American public that he is and was one of the greatest presidents to ever be in office. Now, in this video, you will be witnessing some of the best meltdowns revolving around this topic. They are all very recent, and they are hilarious. Now, I need you to do me a big favor. Please like this video. When you guys like the video, it helps out so much, and others get to laugh at the meltdowns. So the first clip is going to set this all up. It's Joe Biden talking about releasing the hostages. It's probably the backbone of the entire speech.
Speaking to you tonight from the Oval Office. Before I begin, let me speak to important news from earlier today. After 8 months of nonstop negotiation, by my administration, a ceasefire and a hostage deal has been reached by Israel and Hamas, the elements of which I laid out in great detail in May of this year. This plan was developed and negotiated by my team and will be largely implemented by the incoming administration. That's why I told my team to keep the incoming administration fully informed, because that's how it should be, working together as Americans.
Okay, so we have a bit of an issue here. Obviously, you have Joe Biden taking full responsibility and credit for this hostage deal, and you also have Donald Trump taking full credit and responsibility for this hostage deal as well. Later in this video, we will actually get to the reactions on this specific topic, but first, Scott Jennings out of CNN actually was doing a live reaction to this farewell speech, and it's absolutely hilarious.
I think the way he's leaving office has been, frankly, pretty terrible. He's going to be remembered for a few things, but politically, it's mostly for when he was vice president, he and Obama sort of ushering in the Trump era initially, and then as he's leaving office as president, bringing back Trump and Trumpism stronger and more popular than ever. Today, Biden has like a 61% disapproval, and Trump is over a 50% approval and more popular, and his ideology is more popular than it's ever been. If everything you say is true, the Democrats should have had no trouble getting reelected in this election, yet they were.
It's an issue of a communications failure.
I know, and for Democrats, it's always been about communication and no introspection about the policies that led to him leaving office as one of the most unpopular presidents.
One of the biggest complaints from Democrats is always that the common man just doesn't understand what we bring to the table. They are not educated. CNN has really toned it down with this, but MSNBC has still been trying to tell Americans how they're not smart and they don't understand what Democrats are all about. This is one of the biggest reasons why Democrats lost most of their elections throughout the United States, not only Kamala Harris and really Joe Biden. Now, this next clip is so funny because Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank is like, how did Joe Biden become so wealthy? How is that possible?
Americans appreciate the ability to pursue the American dream every day, and we do not push down on success, ever. So, yes, Musk is rich. So what? Zuck,
I don't think
rich,
the issue is how rich
and everybody else comes to this country almost drowning in rivers or getting cut under barbed wires to get in here to pursue their dream. Why do we ever think that we should bash their success?
Actually,
what are you talking about?
Okay, real quick, you need the context as to what Mr. Wonderful is talking about. Right now, the new narrative is the oligarchy, a small group of very wealthy people who are running the country. Zuckerberg, Bezos, Elon Musk, everyone is saying these guys are running the country and Donald Trump is not. Now, what's very ironic is that Joe Biden very recently just gave a very high-ranking presidential medal to a man named Soros.
It is not about how rich they are.
Exactly.
Just to observe what he's
They're not
talking about
rich
here.
enough, is that what you're saying?
No. I'm saying that actually what got them there, Mark Zuckerberg, Sam Altman, Jeff Bezos, they all got to where they are because they came up with good ideas. They built big, good businesses.
Let's punish them.
And no. And they did so largely without having to do what they are doing now.
Fair, it's all fair, but half the country's still wondering how Joe Biden got rich.
Yeah, okay, so here's...
How did he get rich?
But if Joe Biden got rich...
How did he get rich? Does anybody understand how that happened?
That is my new favorite clip of 2025. How did he get rich? How did he get rich? Nobody knows how he got rich. We all have these questions. How did he get rich? And we do have that question. I know Joe Biden's been in office for 50 years, and I know they make decent money over in government, but Joe Biden is very rich. Okay, this next clip, we're going back to Scott Jennings, revolving around this topic of Joe Biden being the best president.
Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, or Karine Jean-Pierre ever lied?
I don't know. What are you talking about?
I mean,
I know where you're going with this,
you're-
but that's not the point. Donald Trump stands up at the
your-
podium every day and delivers lies.
Your speech is about the truth, and one thing about Biden that has always vexed Republicans is that he spends a lot of time talking about him being the center of truth and the restoration of the soul of the nation, and yet he and his people spend a heck of a lot of time undermining that very talking point, up to and including this year with the massive cover-up of his own
Scott,
condition.
how about
And so
Trump lying to the American people doing COVID?
What,
right?
about what?
How about that? I mean, drink bleach, right? I could go
Didn't
on
happen.
and on.
Debunked.
That it's not as bad as the flu. I mean, all of those
Debunked.
things. And the reality is 500.
You're doing it right now.
500,000 people lost their lives because the president wasn't honest with the country
I don't
about the
understand. Are you
dangers
saying
of
that-
COVID.
are you saying the virus was listening to
my point is
Donald
that
Trump?
lies have consequences. And that is.
I just want to make sure I understand that your
Sure.
position is that Donald Trump's words induced the virus to kill people.
No, what Donald Trump's words did was prevented people from protecting themselves
Come on.
and their neighbors, and 500,000 plus people lost their lives.
See-
That was my point. And more importantly, because of his lies, he didn't create an infrastructure from the governors all the way
gave
down
you
to
the
give
vaccine.
shots in
He
arms,
gave you the
to get
vaccine.
the economy open again.
Jay,
so lies have consequences, and
honestly,
that's what Biden was talking about today.
honestly.
We have to be aware of
So
that.
This is crazy.
And honest
I'm
about
sorry,
it.
this is insane.
Now, at the beginning of the video, we talked about who gets credit for the hostage deal. This is a clip from Don Lemon, and I can't believe it. He actually somewhat agrees later in the clip that Donald Trump may or may not have something to do with the success of this deal.
This is what I say. According to diplomats who were involved firsthand in the negotiation, President Biden refused to put any pressure on Netanyahu. And ultimately, they gave up that any deal would happen. It was, and Don, you and I talked about President Trump. I have no love, and I don't want to give
I know
Trump
that.
any credits, but
I know
but I am in the business of telling the truth.
Same.
Donald Trump intervention have been monumental in making the ceasefire deal possible.
Now, I have been covering this conflict for a long time now, almost since the beginning, but over on TikTok, not so much on YouTube. Anybody who's been covering this conflict will tell you, out of nowhere, this hostage deal just ended and stopped. Nobody knew what was going on. You heard something about Egypt, some things about Qatar, and then it just ended. All of a sudden, Donald Trump shows up, and then, hey, we have a hostage deal. That is what the debate is. Who actually is getting the credit here? I know that Joe Biden, at the beginning, he was talking about the deal and Antony Blinken, but then it just stopped. It went silent. I know not everything is public, but it's just interesting how everything has lined up to when Donald Trump shows up, now we have a deal.
Okay. I don't agree with that. I think Donald Trump would like to have started off. We know Donald Trump, the day of his inauguration or on the day to announce a ceasefire. The fact that it happened on Biden's watch, I think that leads many people to question whether it was. And look, I'm not saying that you're wrong, but that's going to lead many people to question.
Do you know when the ceasefire will enter in? Do you know when the ceasefire will start?
It's going to start. Well, the temporary ceasefire is going to start. It should start on Sunday, correct?
It will start on the 19th.
You mean the permanent?
No, the phase one of the ceasefire will start the day
Trump
inauguration, basically. That's when it will happen.
By the way, that might be the first time I've ever seen Don Lemon actually somewhat agree that Donald Trump did something good. Now, this next clip is from everyone's favorite show, The View, how they talk about Joe Biden was one of the greats. We're going to miss him. We love Joe Biden. The constant narrative from The View is that Joe Biden has always been the greatest president ever.
You know, he spent the last 50 years caring about the country. This other one spent 50 years scamming everybody, you know, and trying to stay out of jail. You know who I'm talking about. You know, I really miss Biden. I feel like we were safe. Like, I didn't have to worry. Was everything going to blow up? Well, I could live my life while he was there. Now, every day I wake up and I worry, what is this guy going to do next? Yeah. And these oligarchs, can I just say one more thing and then I'll shut up?
No. You don't have to shut up.
They need to start shelling their money out. These guys, Bezos and what's his name?
do for
Musk. They give it to Trump.
Yeah.
Do they think that they're going to live
Zuckerberg.
forever, these people? You know, everybody dies. I hate to break it to them, but you are not going to live forever.
Did I not tell you oligarchy, oligarchy, oligarchy? That is going to be the new narrative for Donald Trump and this next term. And, you know, the irony of a rich person telling another rich person what to do with their money is so funny. Like, The View always tries to be relatable with the common woman and man. Meanwhile, these guys are elite. They have money. They are rich as well. So again, I just find it so ironic that, yes, Elon and them, they're in a new class of rich. They're the richest people in the world. But it's just funny to watch one another fight and try to tell other rich people what to do.
You're not going to catch me up here, Alicia, today, but I will have a lot of time to reflect on my time here. As you know, this is, and I think you've gotten to know a few press secretaries during your career, this is a job that's nonstop. There's not a lot of time to reflect. It's always, we have to do the job. We have to speak on behalf of the president. We have to make sure that we're communicating with all of you. But what I can say with full heart is that this has been an honor and a privilege to do this job, and I have done it to my best of abilities.
Now, look, I almost can't help but feel bad about this press secretary. She really had to stand up there and say everything is okay, Joe Biden is doing great. She had to stand up there and say Joe Biden will not pardon Hunter Biden. You know, a lot of these lies, essentially, and then flip the script and say, well, I never really said it like that. I didn't say it in an absolute way. Anything could happen. So, again, I think a lot of this reflection is going to be looking back on how she had to flip the script and then essentially take all of the hate in the name of Joe Biden.
Said just the other day that if he had run, he could have beat Trump. How was that received?
Not well, and reportedly not even well by the vice president, who said, hold on a second, because then why did I run? You know, we'll never know. And I think that's another thing we'll have to watch in the ensuing years and decades is he in the conversation alongside Franklin Roosevelt and LBJ and George Washington in terms of great presidents who did big things? Or does he end up in the conversation with Woodrow Wilson and James Garfield and John Kennedy of if they had lived longer, if they'd been healthy enough, if they'd been able to do more, how would we have assessed them? Or would he have been there alongside George Washington and knowing when to stop?
Yeah.
Even if
Okay, stop. I think even Joe Biden, with all of the things he has said, would never put his name in the same sentence as a George Washington or a Theodore Roosevelt. These are combat veteran war heroes, by the way. A lot of people forgot they created and saved America. I don't even think Joe Biden would say that. Look, I understand these news networks, they don't want to completely bury Joe Biden for whatever reason, but no matter what, they have to remember Kamala Harris is still going to linger around. There is still a notion that Kamala Harris could come back. We don't know when, but I don't think they want to bury Kamala and make her look bad, for the fear that she might come back in the future and their news networks might be in a little trouble if she goes after them as well. So again, I think that's why they're being careful and, completely dismantling Joe Biden. I don't think anyone believes that Joe Biden is as great as the greatest presidents, but when you do look back at Joe Biden's political career, not when he was really the president or vice president, there were some pretty good things he's done and said. He's flip-flopped a lot, but go back and look at what Joe Biden said. He was actually a very likable person. He was a devout Catholic. He claims to still be one. And I think that's why a lot of people are just upset with Joe Biden. Like, we knew who you were back in the past, and I know people changed, but what happened? Why was there such this drastic change? You never wanted the complete open borders. You were very tough on marriage, things like that. You were big for the family unit, and that is what I think he will be remembered for. He will be remembered as the guy who just flip-flopped, and at the very, very end, he said, you know what? I'm just gonna lie. I want Hunter Biden to be pardoned because he's my son. And yeah, it's very unfortunate, but it is what it is. But if he hadn't had done the things he has done, as Scott Jennings said, I don't think we would have the powerhouse of the MAGA movement and Donald Trump. What we have right now is a gridlock throughout the entire country where you have the control of the Senate, you have control of the House, and now you have the president. You have a lot of judges on the side of Donald Trump, governors, even on the state level. So yeah, this is what happened. This is what happens when you sort of lie and deceive in a way. I don't know if Joe Biden did it on a purpose. On purpose, I don't know if he was influenced, but this is the truth of the matter. He is not a George Washington. He is not a Theodore Roosevelt. I just think he's in his own bubble of this is what Joe Biden did. This is who Joe Biden was, and we are going to move on.